Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have a 2v2 for you guys today, and it is a bit of a special 2v2. This is from the Blitzwar community Adopt-A-Noob tournament, and it was submitted by Billing here, the second lieutenant on the Blue 4 team, along with the General Nick Demand. Now, we played against, well, the Mint Jellyman and I, who are on team for Blitzwar community tournament, played against Nick Demand back when he had his other partner, so I'm interested to see how this team does with a different noob in that secondary slot. And they're playing against the Lieutenant General Greyhound, who's one of the best wargame players in the entirety of the game, and his noob, the private, Freed Zero. So, I don't know, this is going to be really interesting. I love watching other teams work, especially for things like a tournament where you have this dynamic with you know, the experienced player and a lot of communication, a lot of help between the new player and the more experienced player, just trying to make, well, I think it was actually one of the best ideas for a tournament I've seen in a really long time, because one of the problems, particularly with Wargame, but with any game that has a steep learning curve, is it's new player unfriendly, and so player retention is always a bit of a problem. And I think bringing those newer players like me back when this tournament started, I think I was a sergeant major at the time, I think it really goes a long way toward helping the community grow as a whole and stay healthy, and keep having new people come in, shake things up, play something a little bit differently, and just breathe new life into a game. Because, you know, much as people like me, people who've played this game for 6 years, 8 years, etc., that they do enjoy it and they do still pick up games very often, no community lasts forever unless it's bringing in new people. So we do have an early Flakpanzer Gepard destroyed, and that's Greyhound's Kurnos 2000. One observation that I just want to make as this game gets off the ground, it's less about unit composition and more about, oh man, that MLU. Oh goodness gracious. Okay, so a little bit unlucky there. Kurnos 2000 picking up that kill. Alright, other than unit composition, what I think is interesting is that when my pro player, Mint Jellyman, when he and I played this recently against Blitzwar and his noob, he and I played very much double up, so both of our units were overlapping together in golf, pushing into foxtrot, things like that, and this, by comparison, looks like two people playing individual games. If you take a look, we have Billing's troops over on the left, and we have Nick Demands over on the right, and I think it's just, I don't know, it's interesting. I think there are two main philosophies when it comes to team games, and one of them is that you try and win each individual fight, and the other is that you try and double up on one player, really take them out of commission very early on, and then use the space that gets you to then respond to the other player, who is going to take a lot of ground in that meantime. And you know, this map is particularly good for that, I think, because if we look for a minute from Red's perspective, right, and by the way, this does have a lot of potential. There's Panzergren 90, there's Grenadiers. We're not ignoring the gameplay here. We're going to be taking a look at all of that, especially, ooh, very nice. Come on, pick up that 2A1. Stutes are really, really good. Really, really good. Oh, come on, come on, come on. Wow, that's a couple unlucky misses there. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if Blue can get right through into this town in the upper part of Bravo and bull through into the woods, that's going to be hard for Red to deal with. That's sort of like the winning the one-on-one engagements, but if we look at this perspective from Red, if they devote a lot of stuff to Bravo and it doesn't get pushed, that gives Blue a lot of time to come through Golf and Fox, basically 2v1 here. So I think it's actually a really surprisingly good map for doubling up on your opponents, specifically from the blue side of the board. And, okay, that's from Freed Zero. That's a Kurnos? No. That's the MLU. That's the MLU getting a Martyr, getting some YPRs. Yeah. Okay. There's the Kurnos. Yeah. Okay, you're just gonna expect seeing that. And I did know the deck compositions earlier on, so that's probably why I knew to expect that. Plus we saw things like Rovet, Tiran, Sefai, Israel, I think, on the other side of the board. So that single-handedly, those two planes, made this from a really good push into something where if I were Billing right now, I'd be pulling back. And the reasoning is, okay, you're against an opponent who's made clear now that they want to play in the air, and they even took out an air superiority fighter from the Blue Force side. More than that, the MLU is up quick, the Kurnos buy was there on point, there's a lot of devastating stuff, and there's not really enough left here to really punch in. Even if you think there's only Dragoner right here, right now, Fried Zero can, yep, do exactly this. Panzergren 90 moving up, that's Fallschirmjäger 90. There's no way what's left here from blue is going to be able to do that. All you're going to be doing is throwing away the YPRs, and in the meantime, it looks like Nick Demand's opener went really, really well against Greyhound. So he has Deckensgruppe up and in this forward town. There's Fallschirmjäger here, Marder 1A2s, even more numbers coming out here, and this is, I think, the place to really say, okay, you know, it looked like this was going really, really well, and then wham, all of a sudden on the back foot. But that's fine, because here we have an advantage, we have an opportunity to exploit. If blue right now, if Nick Demand was able to still defend this section forward, and Billing was over here and just went right up top on the center zone, there's no way red's holding that. In fact, let's take a look real quick. I won't do this too much. Yeah, there's an Auxiliary Pakud right here, a Weasel, a Marder, VTS1. Yeah, if blue came up over this side, what's red going to do about this? There's no way that they're going to be protecting this before the Auxiliary Pakud either has to retreat or more likely gets killed, because anything with a main tank gun gets to about here, and you have line of sight with recon, admittedly, but you know, you have at least unobstructed line of sight right there. So that, I think, would be the opportunity, is particularly because this opener went so well. Just take Fox, really punish that position very hard, and try and make the most of it. I mean, you don't really need Bravo with that, right, either. So if Golf is blue and Foxtrot's blue, it doesn't really matter if red has Bravo. You're still getting +1 tick. And then you spend the rest of the game... Man, this music's a little existential. Existential. It's kind of getting to me a little bit. Sneaky bow. Actually, is there... the CV? Okay, if that is the CV, and if these guys saw it, which I'm assuming they did, get the bow out. Because right now, this guy hasn't moved. Yep, that is the CV. But you park this recon helicopter right over it, they're gonna know you saw it. Oh, man. Sometimes it's a little bit counterintuitive, but sometimes you want to get that sneaky glance and then just pull back out. Because if their base CV was still there, you pull up some artillery, I mean, M110s, right? You get 2 or 3 of those, you target that town block, and even without corrected shot, that's going to be just dead everything, right? So definite opportunity there, but now it's blipped once, it's blipped twice. The first one was probably hopping towns, but the second one could be anything. It could have been over here, could be over in the other town block, could still be exactly where he is, just trying to trick you. So there's a lot... Oh, man. Oh, no. So I did see earlier these 2A1s were spotted. MLU coming to punish. Barak picking up the plane. iHawks going down. Yeah, wow. That is a lot of pain. I mean, at least getting the MLU is nice. So Hawk Pip 3 management from Nick Demand coming in a little bit clutch there. And yeah, I mean, blue needs an answer. I guess both are technically playing blue 4 nations, but the blue 4 side of the field needs an answer to those planes sooner rather than later, or this is going to get really rough really quick. And the Hawk Pip 3s are a way to do that. Yeah, I need to take a look at the music after this. Sorry, I'm trying out a new mix, and I like it, but not all the songs have the same volume, and I can only set the universal volume. So we have little peaks like that where it'll be a little loud, and we have some valleys where it'll be a little bit quieter. And I really just gotta say, I don't think Nantra are really the best choice here. In fact, I would say playing on this side of the board, you know what? It was a good go, it was a good attempt to it, but you're nearly 10 minutes in, and there hasn't been a lot of movement over here, in part because Nick Demand has been buying things like the plane to try to kill enemy air assets, and then just dealing with Greyhound's constant pressure in. There's a 3D Baz, there's Zeldas, there's Rovade. This part of the game has gone a bit better for Greyhound, I think, than the initial bit did, and holding on to this section of town it's very tough. It's very, very tough indeed. So I don't think that's necessarily the worst. Oh no. Okay, if these LAR 160s go down, I'd say that's pretty much game, but it looks like they are alive, just losing out on the resupply, which that's going to hurt in the long run, right? So you're going to be running those back to the fob, coming back up to the front, and losing a couple of groups. These amphibills are 15 pointers. They don't carry a lot of supply. So you do have to really try to keep them alive. That's partially why I prefer the 30 pointers over pretty much everything. 20 pointers I can deal with, 40 pointers are a little expensive. But yeah, I think there was really just an opportunity right here for Foxtrot to have been pushed, and it might not stay there forever. So Nick Demand did buy a CV, Foxtrot is countercapped. If Billing can get this section enough, there still is potential for a cap on this side. So Martyr 2s versus Martyr 1, that's going to go very much in one direction only every single time. But, I mean, how do you answer the Fallschirmjäger 90 here? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 groups, even with only a couple men left. Like, I bet they kill these Martyr 2s, to be frank. Yep. Yeah, nice micro there from Freed0. And that's 60 points of Martyr 2s lost. So, frankly, you kill the group, it's still worth it. Maybe not all 4, but certainly 2 of them. Those Panzergren 90 just paid for themselves. And yeah, availability is going to be a thing. That's certainly true. But availability is only one aspect of it, and sometimes economy is more impactful, particularly in decks that have a lot of diversity of infantry, like Billings seems to. Now, another thing that I just want to pick on here just for a little bit is the Flakpanzer Gepard placement. First off, there's no reason this one should still be out in the open. And second, the thing about the Gepard is that 2800 meter range against helicopters, 2625 against airplanes, it's not going to be enough to really deal with the airplanes that you have coming in and coming out. We've already seen Seed, and both of these guys have their guns on. So if you want these guys to be effective against planes, they need to be up farther forward, which means you need screens here in Foxtrot. You need to not allow your opponent to get recon all the way in here where they were able to see both of those Leopard 2A1s. But then you also need the Gepards forward so that they can actually get their guns online. And then even then, they're still probably not going to be getting the kill. That's what the Ihawks are for, both over from Nickdeman and from Billing. But I don't know, the Seed micro is really, really crucial, especially when you have, that was a Kurnos 2000, it's the Israeli Seed plane. So that's going to be from Greyhound, who is the more experienced player. And, you know, if I saw that the newer player maybe had it, maybe I wouldn't be as worried if I were blue right now. But if I was sitting in Billing's seat and I knew that Greyhound, the Lieutenant General, was coming after my radar anti-air, I'd be very uncomfortable because, you know, he can probably do it. And if my micro slips, that's going to be just a way to very, very much be paying attacks for all these units, basically the whole game. So let's take a look. What are these guys going after? The retreat spot, it looks like, for Greyhound. That could be very deadly. Merkava 2A, 90 points isn't the worst thing to lose, but it certainly does hurt, and those losses do add up. But yeah, it looks like it was centered a little bit farther away to the left there. So that's not going to be the end of the world. I like the Tiran pick from Greyhound. And let's see, evac bingo, goodness gracious. I think this is actually one of the best maps to the Barak 2. It has shorter range, high accuracy missiles, but this is such a short map that you can often just get those planes in. Here it comes, plane train from Greyhound, there's the Kurnos 2000, that's probably, ooh no, I was going to guess that was a Kurnos, but a Lavi bomber coming in, better against infantry, and that's one Hawk, oh no, and a Gepard. Yeah, I mean, just think about that, right? So the Hawk, 60 points, the Gepard, 45 points, it's 105 points off the Kurnos 2000, and it's not even his first kills either. That nearly paid for the plane on its own, and we've already lost assets there. So now, just ignoring everything else happening in Bravo and Foxtrot, that's going to be a big points advantage later on in the game for Red. So let's speed things up just a little bit, as it looks like the front lines have become a little bit static. We still do have a lot of pressure coming in here, and something I'll say as well, this is good. Like, it could be tempting for Billing to... sneaky Mogwai. Not quite sneaky enough. But it could be very tempting to stop buying those frontline assets while you get other things replaced, like the Gepards, like the Ihawks, everything like that. And Billing's doing a very good job of not allowing his frontline to completely disappear, even though it did get thinned out for a little bit. I mean, that is pretty crucial. If Red takes all the way up into here, yeah, there's really not going to be any chance of getting that section of Bravo back. It's just going to be very, very tough, very treacherous grind. Not the sort of thing that you want to be putting yourself in the way of, particularly if the air game is tough. So, I don't know, there's just, look at the separation of units, right? There's this one section, these two units are next to each other, and then over on the right, it's all green, and over on the left, it's all blue. These two players are very much playing different games, and I'm curious, let's switch to Greyhound's perspective. I guess it's pretty similar for here as well, but there is more overlap in the center. If we look at the automatics, the Siphon, Cepha B, the Auxiliary Picud from Greyhound, and it's being protected by Freed0, granted away from most of the combat. But yeah, I mean, if we look at this, there's Martyr 2s, there's BGS, there's Panzergren 90, more Panzergren 90. This on its own could probably sweep through a fair amount of what's here for Billing, especially after this little bit of combat. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Now, the same thing does cut the other direction. Panzergren 90 can definitely kill Martyr 2s. It's just a matter of I'd feel more comfortable with a double stack, and that is gone. But nice mortar support. Let's see. Sometimes the dispersion on mortars lands just right. Oh, nice. Very nice. Yeah, excellent mortar support. Especially when you're in those tough, atrocious grinds with infantry in the woods, you need your mortars to be on point, and that is definitely helping out. Because those pins are ground 90. I mean, they're 25 points. You get a kill with one of those. Yeah, it doesn't quite pay for the mortar, but it certainly doesn't hurt. And it only takes a couple of rounds, a couple of nice shots in. Even if you don't get the kill, you certainly will be getting a lot of damage in. Oh, this is risky. F104G, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. Yeah, short range, high accuracy, 2 for 2. That sucks. It was a good idea, you know, pick off this Tsefa E, but the issue is the Tsefa E is going to see those planes coming from not crazy far away, but certainly relatively far away, and there's a huge fighter presence now from the Israeli team. Oh, I guess they're not Israeli, you know what I mean. So, in terms of tick, it does look like Nictoman and Billing are ahead, 72 points to 13 is a decent gap, 60 points. That's what, 4 minutes at +1, which is pretty good. But in a game that runs to 40 minutes, it's not the end of the world right now, so I am a little bit worried about that for blue, especially if it does seem like there's just going to be... I mean, so far it looks like Freed Zero in particular has been getting really, really good trades so far in these woods, and that, I mean, that adds up, right? It's the classic debate about do you want to be a bit more aggressive in the early game, risk taking those losses, or even take those losses semi on purpose just to gain ground that you then have to hold? Or do you want to get the economy grind and maybe you're not ticking at the beginning, but you tick at the end, and there's nothing your opponent can do because you're up that much on value? But this is a little worrisome, the smoke coming in from the Red 4 team here, and might be blocking off for a counter push. So if you get a lot of infantry in, particularly the mechanized infantry that Israel is very good at, even outside of a mechanized deck, and you come right through into this town, over the side, and really just start fighting in the force on the right, simultaneous with force on the left, this retake is definitely possible. And I think we've seen that really Greyhound has been putting most of his points in the air, and the impact of that has been huge so far. We have Commandos 90 from Nictoman over on this side. It is nice to see the coordination, but the other thing you have to think about is the investment. So Commandos 90 themselves, 20 points apiece, is not the end of the world, but it's not cheap either. And yeah, I think the more Nictoman moves over this way to try and hold this position in Bravo, the harder it's going to be to hold the position in Golf. It's the other side of the field, right? Oh, but excuse me, pardon the yawn. It's been a long couple of days. I'm sure you guys have noticed that I didn't have videos up the last couple of days, and some of that's I was feeling a little under the weather. I occasionally have some issues with stuff. Yeah, you know, everybody has aches and pains, and mine were acting up a bit more, so apologies for that, but on the mend right now and happy to be doing some more recording again. Also just have a busy week at work coming up, but you know, such is life. I don't know anyone with any job ever who said that, oh yeah, it's a complete walk in the park 100% of the time. So those are going to be the Israeli Mar-290s, and yeah, particularly in 2v2, the Mar-290s can be really brutal on this map, because it's like, you look at this zone, where do people put stuff? Well, they put stuff here, and they put stuff here, because what idiot's going to leave stuff out in the middle? Except Mar-290s, they have a fast reload time, really high HE damage. Ooh, nice cross. Looking for the Rovite. Oh, I almost would have hit the Soda at that point, but it is a farther in dive, and that's a Nimrod? Yeah, that's a Nimrod. 10 strength, really fast ATGM, 2 hits so far, killing even one of those Merkava 2As, out of fuel in the worst possible place. Probably not going to be long for this world, unless that was the 4th missile from the Nimrod. No, some nice time smoke coming in, only a little bit too late to save the other Merkava 2A as well. So, oh man, we missed it. My apologies there, guys. That looks like the carcass of a Leopard 1 command tank. So I can only imagine with the way these commandos are spreading out that there was some flank around the side, and that's a second CB buy from Nictoman. So I guess I understand, 93 points to 13, widen the gap to 80 points, try and keep ticking with a +1 as long as Golf is under control, but you know, we never really saw that push materialize earlier from Red, but that's an Oxide Pakud. And even if you know it's coming in there, that is one of the most annoying command vehicles to uproot just in the entire game, because for the point cost in particular, it's very tough, even if it doesn't have guns at all. And one of the ways around it is with planes, with bombers, things like that, but I would not want to challenge red in the skies right now. They have a Barak 2 circling, the Kurnos, and never forget, the Kurnos and the Kurnos 2000 carry air-to-air missiles. This guy has 4 semi-active Sparrows behind the Barak 2. That could be a very powerful secondary punch, and if anything from blue attempts to move up on the ground to take that position, the Kurnos just right-clicks it and it's gone. Simple as that. Right, so very much a tough time. Mar-290's very well coordinated here as well. Look at the whole width of that stun, right? So the Falstrom dead on that side. A couple of casualties, no squads wiped on the left-hand side, but lots of stuns. And I keep waiting for red to just come streaming in here, because it's what I would do. But I think the LAR 160s from Nictoman have been particularly impactful in keeping things at bay. This is just looking worse and worse on this side. Look, here's the thing. Whenever I cast my own games, I already know who's won. Like, I played the game, I was there. Sometimes I won't remember the game if it was like a really long time ago, something like that, but generally speaking, I know most of the details about it. It's quite different for community cast, and particularly community cast of tournaments, because, well, for community casts in general, I like to do them without looking at it, and it's a way to have some excitement, right? Unfortunately, we missed some things, like not knowing that the command tank here was going to die, but on the other hand, it's a new experience, right? It's a different twist on the game where I see different styles of play, I see how different people approach these different problems, and I don't know, it can be a really fun time. But I think this is going to be one of those cases where the person who sent it in might not even be the one winning. And, you know, I almost like those better, because it's easy for people to send in their best games, and sometimes their best games are because they made really good plays, sometimes it's because their opponent was having a bad day or made some misplays, or was just not as experienced in the game. But I like it when people send in their own losses, because, oh man, you might that a little bit better, my friend. AT4 should have killed that box far sooner, and the Live Garden die sooner, and then you're exposed to that fire for less time. But I think it's very much entertaining when people send in something that's a good one. You know what? This game didn't work out as well as I would have hoped, but I still want to see it. I want to hear somebody talk about it, give their thoughts and all that. And I will say right now, with 17 minutes left, if Red 4 can maintain this, whether counter-capping in Golf, counter-capping in Fox, keeping things out of Bravo, that's the game right there. And, you know, on the other hand, Nictoman's Auxiliary Pikud, this must stay alive. If this dies, then there goes the Blue 4 lead. And it'll go by very quickly too. 15 points a minute seems like a lot until you're sitting there in-game realizing I'm losing this, and I might not have already lost it now, but I'm losing it over time, and I need to turn this around. So Decan Scrupa, Live Garden being engaged here, and it is nice to get the kills in the Live Garden. I personally don't take base Live Garden when I take Landjet, which this is what that seems to be from Fleet 0. I'm more of a fan of Live Garden 85, just for the additional range of the launcher. I tend to use Dragoner for this sort of thing. Dragoner, Panzergren 90, and the Fallschirmjäger 90. But Live Garden are pretty tough. In 20-point shocks, look to MG3, they're basically Stormer. From my understanding, they're pretty much the same exact thing. And both of those are good units, right? They will grind through these Grenadiers pretty well. And, you know, early we had the mortars firing directly on the Red 4 infantry. Now that doubly needs to be true, and increasingly so as the game goes on. Ooh, Kurnos. What's the target here? Morovite? No. What the heck was that? Oh, it was the Cheetah D. Okay, that's fair. It looks like this was just a denial Kurnos. So just saying, hey, everything in here is going to die. If there's not much in there, then I just want you to be thinking about it. It does look like there were some Rovite that were already past it. Ooh, nice. LAR 160s. See, you know what type of command vehicle this is, and I wonder if that's going to get the kill or if this thing's going to get out. I'm just going to take a quick peek. Yeah, dead. Nice. Very, very nice. I almost wonder... Ooh, let's go to billing here. I almost wonder if that should have happened earlier, because those LAR 160s have been up for a little while. They've been shooting pretty much the entire game, which is very impressive. Keeping them alive, keeping them safe for that long is very tough. and that was the perfect timing to give a +1 tick back to blue 4 here, as this game could have potentially turned sour, even picking up a plane kill as well. And what was that off of? Hawk pick 3. Very nice. Yeah, and just move before the counter battery. I mean, geez, Mar290's aim, reload quickly, aim quickly. Well, not super quickly, but you know what I'm saying. So that dodge was very nice. And then back to +1, 107 to 57, not quite as wide of a margin as we saw earlier on, but certainly a lot of ground to work with, a lot of runway here for blue with only 14 minutes left in the game. I mean, it feels like a lot, but we're more than halfway done, right? So, that's very nice. Ooh, no. That was not very nice. Losing the Kurnos for that, I don't think is worth it. Yeah. It's the downside of bringing in Kurnos a lot, and you know, players knowing that you're going very plane heavy. Yeah, they'll invest in anti-air, and it's sort of wasted buys because it's not in the front line, but it's wasted until it kills that Kurnos, and now that tool is gone. Sure, maybe you have a second one, but you have to rebuy it. It's very expensive, and its battlefield presence is just gone. I mean, planes don't stick around even when they're alive, and when they're dead, doubly so. So let's see, cheetah D. Okay. That's fine. And it does look like Billing is taking a much more passive approach here than earlier, although the YPRs are still a little too close. Lidgard and things in the towns will shoot that. You gotta be careful about that. I also would like to see some resupply trucks in here, because these 2 95, just as an example, Grenadiers even, need to be healing between these engagements. A large portion of keeping the economy alive in these forward grinds is getting your units back, getting them healed up, making sure that you're not losing entire squads, because you know, this is a 20-point squad right here, and sure, you might be thinking, okay, but each resupply truck is 15 points, sure, but you know, they can heal up a fair amount of infantry, and then you bring them back, you bring them forward again, you keep that line of supplies just going and going and going and going, and you make sure that you keep your important units, your critical units, alive. Other quick thing, this AH-64 escort, I know he's probably trying to get some fire on the Rovite 90, sorry, the Rovite, but that is too close. Machbet's going to pick that off. These Rovites are in the open, and they're in the open, if we take a look in, right through a lane that you can pretty much see from back here. Not necessarily if you're on ground level, that is through the trees, but if you're hovering above the trees and you go right about there, those Rovite get to here and they die. And another option, by the way, is right over this building so that they're still in high hover. And then they see, instead of the right-hand side of this lane, they'll actually be able to look, you can see it right here, right through here. And these sections of forest are very small. If you're at the higher elevation as well, you should still get unbroken line of sight in through there. It can be, oh man, Lavi, Barracks. Every time Billing has gotten somewhat of an upper hand on this side, the plane trains have been so incredibly dangerous. This is insane. Oh no. That's the second Kurnos from Nick Demand. Remember, one of them already has died. Barak 2 coming in, looking for that kill, and gets it. No. Yes, gets it. So both the Kurnos for Nick Demand are gone, courtesy of a Barak 2 from Greyhound and some earlier anti-air. And now that tool is completely off the battlefield for them. I don't know what other planes Nick Demand would have taken, but this is a generic blue 4 deck. So only 45 activation points. And not all of it from Israel, so you won't necessarily see something like the Lavi, you won't see other planes like that, but you might see a Nighthawk as an example. I think a lot of people in blue do take Nighthawks. Okay, very nice. Very nice. See, okay, this is still just... So I don't mean to sound overly critical here. It's not something that I think is, you know, it's not why I do the community cast, but from time to time a couple of things stick out enough when I do these that I really just want to comment on it, and here we have a couple of instances of that. First, your Leopard Rekenning is spotted in the same location that the Leopard 2A1s were spotted previously, and they died a horrible death, and I expect this thing will as well. When you see something that's spotted for this long, you need to be going in and making sure that it's either back far enough where it's not spotted, or you're pushing that position to make sure that your opponent's recon goes away and doesn't have the opportunity to kill those units. And then the infantry need to be micro better, and I guess that probably goes for the anti-air as well, although, you know, being out of ammunition, you can't be spotted by seed, but these Gepards, their guns on, and they don't need to be shooting right now. Just turn it off. Their radar, turn it off, turn it on when they're in range. And then for the infantry, if you know that there's going to be things like Martyr 2s, like the Leopard 1A5 DK, you have to be microing those secondary anti-tank weapons, or you're going to be just losing things that you don't need to lose, just because it's going to be slower to engage the heavy armor, and those pieces of armor will get more and better kills than they otherwise would. Oh man. Oh, please get out. Oh. You know, the Thunderbolt has armor. And 2-1-2-1 armor is very nice on a plane. I just really hope he evacs before that KWS sees this and thinks to himself, okay, you know what, we're going to do that too. Nimrod coming in from Greyhound, they're looking for that Oxidate. And with a Siphon there as well, they just might see it. I don't know if they'll have... Yeah, okay, Nimrod is stunned. As long as that's stunned, that's a safe Oxidate Pakud. Cepha Bees probably not going to make it there either. Martyr 2s are actually very nice at killing helicopters, as are Panzergren, but they're not healed up. And yeah, I mean, they're not healed up. The Oxidate's dead. Cepha B with the kill. Okay. Yeah, I mean, still rolling a +1 for Nick Demand and his group. Bravo's reposition, but now it's not. And 171 to 57 with 9 minutes left, well, 9 minutes left, is a pretty comfortable place to be. But yeah, I mean, you know, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop in this game, right? Because of how atrocious Bravo has been, because Blue has had a hard time commanding all of Gulf, and it just hasn't dropped yet. I mean, it's just so far, you know, not perfect. But you know what tournament game is when you have this sort of, you have one high-level player on each team, and then I mean they're helping out the other player as well, right? So I mean, it's a contentious game. That's what the tournaments are designed to be. What's the team balance is designed to be, with the mix of newer and more experienced players. And I really gotta say, I had expected Redford to maybe be a bit more aggressive in capping in Golf, but they did that, and it got clustered. And you know, bringing in another Oxidate Pakud against double R160 is just asking for it to get shot. The second it comes in here, these R160s unload, and I mean, it's not gonna live. So I guess I understand. Ooh, this is potentially catastrophic. Very nice response here from, that's from Billin. Okay, so he was looking over, he saw the Shayatet, might have seen it on the minimap as well. Shayatet 13 versus Hapak is definitely going to be a one-sided fight. Nice pick up there with Peace Shrine, and this is the sort of cooperation that even there in that 10-second span made such a huge impact. I mean, one of the groups of Shayatet is just outright dead, the other one was losing to Hapak, and then gets cleaned up by a Cheetah D. Now this thing needs to move right now, but assuming it does, that actually was not the worst. There aren't that many Shayatet in a deck, and anything that you can kill with it does make a heck of a lot of difference. I think there was a brief gap on the right-hand side where those infantry weren't in place. Nice kill on the Lavi, and you know, that follow-up kill, having good anti-air, Stinger A's here, and a couple of other units as well, really turned a bad situation where those Hapak were under threat into a good situation for Blue, killing off a bunch of frontline units, as well as particularly annoying air support. Like that Lavi is probably the same one we've seen over on this side. Oh no, don't take this fight, please. I mean, there's a joke that Gepards are the BMPTs of Blue 4, but, well, no, not Gepards, Challengers. These guys do not have the frontal armor to do that. The Challenger, the 70 pointer, has what, 14 frontal armor? Yeah, I mean, even if you get these Martyr ones, I would expect that there's infantry somewhat nearby. Getting away with it is probably going to be more lucky than a reliable thing. And I get that you need to clear the Martyr 2s, but I mean, that needs to be more infantry out and out and out. And we see actually some from Nick Demand as well. I imagine those are probably more of those 20-point shocks from him. Yeah. Commandos 90, very nice. Nice Cheetah D, and oh come on, that's the automatic. Yeah, so this is just gonna get revenge for that, because the Fallschirmjäger will kill the Commandos 90, and the second they get over here, they're gonna take out those Gepards as well. Yep, that's microed infantry. So I mean, very much killed by some Cheetah Ds and some follow-up, but still enough. Double Gepard, 90 points. I'd trade a double stack of falls for 90 points of anti-air. Yeah, I mean, maybe not every time, but certainly at this point in the game where you need to clear that out, yeah. And what's going to end up happening, with 5 minutes left, we're going to get to the point where Red needs a +2, and even though this Panzerkampfwagen Leopard 1 is probably going to die to anything pushing through here from Red, the fact that it hasn't yet is pretty great, and if these reinforcements can get in, I'd almost say that seals the deal, because, you know, to get that +2 that they need, the Red 4 team's going to have to either decap Fox, decap Golf, or decap Bravo, and do it quickly. 5 minutes left, 173 to 80, nearly a 90-point gap. Yeah, I suppose that's about 6 minutes at +1. and there's only 5 minutes left. So, yeah, the Red 4 team, well, nominally Red 4, already needs a +2 to win. And that time goes by really quickly, you know, it doesn't seem like that long ago. We were looking at it with 16 minutes left, we were looking at it with 23 minutes left, we're talking about all the things that needed to happen. Oh, nice. Very nice Deckensgruppe. Underutilized unit from what I've seen, but very, very impactful when used properly, and that was definitely a proper usage there. I mean, those guys will actually do a really phenomenal job in the woods. It's quite impressive. And I do like how Nick Demand, sort of having realized probably that he doesn't need to hold all of this, he just needs to hold enough of it, is helping out in other places. We have more reinforcements coming up this side on the left, and then just not throwing away things stupidly. Yeah, Marta 182 is exploiting that gap against Rogue by 8, and I think this is going to be a pretty tidy, well, at least somewhat comfortable win for blue on the ground. So 174 to 92, and that temporary +2 was just a reposition. It was almost sort of a false +2 we have. And somebody just hopped into the moderator chat. I can't quite tell who, but if you're there and you want to introduce yourself, be my guest. If not, then we'll just finish up. Oh, hey. We'll finish up the rest of the game here and then take a look at it. 3 minutes left in the Adopt-A-Noob. I think this was the quarterfinals between Nick Demand, Billing, Greyhound, and Freed Zero. So, yeah, I think one thing from Red is that I think Freed Zero has come in here and he's engaged a couple of times and then sort of been satisfied and just kind of pulled back a little bit. And I think there were a couple opportunities where if Red did this earlier and just locked down Bravo, then kind of like what I was saying earlier with Billing shifting over to the right, I think if Freed had locked down Bravo and then shifted over into Foxtrot, that might have been another opportunity, another way back into the game for the Red 4 players, because there's not a lot holding here. There's Chumat, there's a Stinger team, there's FE432. At one point, Red did command this forest as well. And from this forest, you can attack into the right, you can also attack into the left, really move through the back end of Foxtrot. And what are a couple of Stingers going to do against, I don't know, standard line infantry, let alone shocks, let alone something with support? And that breakthrough really could have been very threatening very quickly. Still, I think the highlight of the play has to be both the Red 4 use of planes and what Blue 4 has done to really get around that, to really survive it. And, I mean, Nick Demand pushing in at the very end. Keep in mind, all he needs to do right now is hold. With 2 minutes left, this is not a tie, this is a win for Blue. And he's still looking to kill the Red 4 command vehicle on this side of the field. And, I mean, I imagine he's going to do it too. Look at that. Hot dropping Commandos 90? Yeah, Commandos 90 into the town here. That's going to be the command vehicle. Another Oxidite Picoud, and even if the infantry doesn't get it, if those LARs, yeah, LAR 160's already aiming, look at that. If those aren't shooting in for that CV, I'd be really surprised. Although, I mean, could quite frankly pick up a lot of helicopters back here as well. Alright, Fusiliers, Merkava 2A, Optical Failure is a good way to die. And then if either of these move forward, I imagine, yeah. Although, you know, the Oxidite Picoud does have good frontal armor. Second shot, Fusiliers. No, stunned. I swear if that thing survived. If that thing survives, I mean, sometimes Wargame giveth and sometimes Wargame taketh away, and that would very much be a taking it away moment for Blue. I don't know, I mean, Fennecs are good. I think they're shooting all the infantry that are coming up here. Yeah, look at that. Okay, there it is. Yep. And with 1 minute left and a 0 tick, I mean, the helicopters right out of the Valkyries is a little bit obnoxious, but I don't think it's really going to get anywhere. And even if it does, you know, Red can decap Foxtrot, it's not going to make a difference. Red has Bravo capped right now, it's not going to make a difference there. About the only thing that would change anything is if they pretty much killed out Foxtrot, Golf, and Charlie, and even then, I don't think they'd have enough time to get a tie. So that is going to be the game. Thank you all for hanging around, and if you like this sort of thing, don't hesitate to leave a like, share, subscribe, all that YouTuber nonsense that does help me out quite a bit with the metrics and make up for a couple of days of not posting, which always does hurt a little bit, but hopefully we'll be back into the swing of things. And
subscribe to him, please, please, please.
Thanks, Canadian, I think, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for that. Let's look at, real quick, just some of the standout units for Billing here in this game, and I imagine he took a pretty atrocious fight over in Bravo. Yeah, 26, 37, 40, 80, that's pretty tough.
I don't think they needed to commit that much into Bravo.
Yeah, I think the same thing. Before you hopped on, I basically said after So I think Billing had a good initial engagement there, and it just got completely flattened by an MLU and a Kurnos. And the second, yeah, well, I mean, not like the second that happens, I would have switched over. Nick Demand had such a good position on the right. That's a little bit of teamwork there, I think, would have made it a much quicker game, much quicker victory for Blue. But, you know, we'll see you guys again tomorrow.